Alright guys, I told you I would be doing a video about this build. This is the Revell's FA18E Super Hornet in 1/48 scale that I have just completed yesterday. Got everything done to it. The very last thing I did was the ladder. That's right on the front here, as you can see right there. This kit, I like this kit. This kit I got, like, it was on Christmas, just a little bit before Christmas. My little brother gave it to me. He got it from Hobby Lobby. Had to drive about 40 minutes, 35 minutes, something like that, over there and get it. So he bought this for me for Christmas and gave it to me a little early, but didn't do this kit for quite a while. I didn't really do any building for quite a while, and then I picked up a saber that I had that my other brother had given to me for Christmas as well, into that one. And then after I completed the saber that you guys saw probably recently, me complete, I decided to just pick up this kit and do it. I was really looking forward to doing it because I really like the F-18. It's one of my favorite airplanes. I love things I really love about it is all the wings, and then the huge landing gear. The landing gear are probably one of my favorites out of any airplane that I've done or even have seen. It doesn't have to be a kit, it can be a real airplane. But the landing gear are probably my favorite out of any of them. But anyway, this kit took me, I think, 5 weeks to do, something like that. I did a little by little because I had other things I was doing, work and stuff. So I just did a little bit every day and made slow progress on it. As you know, the decals on it aren't original. This is the Revell's version, so it did come with VFA 122, which I decided that I wasn't going to put on because it was boring. There was not a whole lot of color to the whole scheme or to that squadron. It's Navy's version, so I decided that I wasn't going to put them on. So I put out on Facebook to see if any of you guys know or knew where I could get different decals for this exact version, and luckily enough I got free ones off of Facebook. Somebody just sent them to me, which is really cool. They're a little over 2 years old, or 2 years old, something like that. And starting off with the decals, talking about the decals, they're not old, but they have aged, and they have sat around for a long time. So I did have problems getting the red, I don't know if you can see here, getting the red lines all along this black part here to actually stay and just lay down all the way. Let me give more light. Lay down all the way here. So that whole red line right here, had a really hard time getting to lay that down. So I used like 6-7 coats of the Micro Sol to get that down, and waited a few days and then did it again and again and again. Same thing for the tail, for the vertical fins right here. Those red decals took a long time, and had to use a lot of solvent to get those down. Didn't really conform to the surface very well until the very end. And these Felix the Cat decals as well. Those did not go on there very well. I had to put several coats on that. And one major mistake I did make on the decals themselves was the 2 black ones right here. As you can see, this is the right side decal, and then this is the left side. This is the side that the pilot gets on, and this is the left side. I had first I had put both of them on, put the solvent solution on there as well. Hold on, let me focus it. Hold on, there we go. Put the solvent solution on here, both of them, and then just let them sit for a couple hours. Then I looked online and noticed that some of them had only this one. So I was freaking out. I'm like, oh no, I put this one on there for no reason, just because I was going through the process of putting decals on there and wasn't paying attention. So I decided to take that solvent solution, put it on a Q-tip, and just scrape this one off. And it took a little bit of the paint off. And I just didn't worry about that. I guess I thought that if after I weathered it, it would look a little normal, just like it was used well on this side. And then I looked again on some of the airplanes and noticed that they had both of them on. Luckily, I had two of these, so after I had taken it off, after it had got conformed to the surface and into the panel lines here and the rivets, I put another one on there. And first I put another layer of gloss right here, and then put another one on there because I had originally taken off the first layer of gloss after I had taken off the decal, or in the process of taking this one off. So I decided to just put that one up, cover up the paint that came off over here a little bit, and then didn't worry about that. And also the most difficult decals out of this whole airplane, I'd say, were the VFA 31 right there, because they're two pieces. It's actually the red goes first and it just outlines the VFA 31, and then the black goes on top of it, and it goes all the way back here. If you can see, there's a tiny, it goes smaller, 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 smaller until it hits right about here at the end. And then it was really hard to just get it to settle correctly, to be straight all the way, and to get the other side to look exactly the same. So I put the red one on first, put the solvent solution on there, waited for it to dry for probably 10-20 minutes, and then put the black one on there, put some micro set on there so I can move it around and position it into the correct place, and then put that one on there. And then it took me like 30 minutes to get both, 30 to 45 minutes, something like that, to get both of these on. It was crazy, just those two. But everything else went on there pretty nicely. The black surface is not a decal. Those I had to paint separately. And then same thing with the tail fins. Let me focus it. There we go. Same thing with the tail fins. Those are not decals on there. I had to paint those separately. And the vertical stabilizer, as you can see here, what are they? Trim tabs. Vertical stabilizer trim tabs. I think that's what they are, because they're right on the back of the rudder, the tail rudder. Yeah, and I had to paint those gray as well. I did paint those the same color as the top fuselage, so that was no big problem. And this small antenna here that you can see, let me focus it again. The small antenna here was originally black because I had painted this whole surface black, and then I looked on some of the pictures and it was gray, so I'm like, I'm gonna paint this gray because it's more realistic. It would be more realistic for the whole thing. Plus it looks better. So I did that. So decals are not original to with the kit. Neither are the, focusing it, neither are the sidewinders at the end of at the end of the wings. Those are not original. It came with only one fuel tank, 2 AMRAAM missiles, and 2 Sidewinder missiles. Let me zoom in here if I can. There we go. So it came with 2 AMRAAM missiles and 2 Sidewinder missiles. But these Sidewinders I had taken from my earlier F-15E kit that was also by Revell, and put that on here. There wasn't a way to place it, so I decided to drill holes into the wing at both ends, and then drill just tiny holes right into the Sidewinders and put a little bit of wire through it so it held on properly. on there and wouldn't have a chance to fall off. There was a place for the AMRAAMs on there to go on there correctly, because that's where they belong. That's where the kit says they have to go. But for the smaller sidewinders on here, as you can see, these ones here, there wasn't a place. There was no adjustment or just a way to put them on there. So I had to just figure out a way, and I just put them, kind of just glued them on there, as you can see. On the real airplane, I have no idea if they would just put them into that pylon, into the center pylon. I don't think they would, but correct me if I'm wrong, or just say something if you know that they would put it on there, because I have no idea. So I just stuck them on there because I had no other place to put them. I don't think it would be correct if I put them on the very first one on here, because they wouldn't belong there. That's usually where the two fuel tanks go. And that was another disappointment, that the whole kit, it only came with one fuel tank, external fuel tank. It was the center one, as you can see. That was a disappointment for me. I would really love two, or three would be better, of course, but one. Why just one? I haven't seen this squadron carry three. I haven't seen any photos of this squadron carrying three of them, but I would still put them on there, even though it might not belong on there, but it looks cool. For this top layer of color, I used Model Masters Light Ghost Gray, or Dark Ghost Gray on the top one, sorry, because that's what it said to put on there. Alright, so for the top color, I used Dark Ghost Gray, because that's what the instruction manual asked to do, and I weathered that. And on the bottom, I used Light Ghost Gray, and then I just taped off the area where I did not want it painted, like over here where the Navy decal is. I just put a round, kind of like a circle thing right there, and I just mixed that in there. I did it with tape, just cut out. I put a piece of tape on it and drew what the shape I wanted on there, and then took it off, cut it out, and then placed the part that I had cut out on there, so I can spray paint that or airbrush that onto there. And I did the same thing on the other side of it. And for the top, I painted that a flat black. I used a Testors flat black paint, those little ones that they have, that they sell at like Hobby Lobby and Michael's. That's where I get my paints from. As well as all my other paints, Tamiya paints. I get that online because I can't buy that locally here. No place sells them. And for the engines, I used steel because I used the color steel because I thought that's the color that fit the exhausts best over here. Let me zoom in onto there. I thought that that's the color that fit it best. And for the small part here that you can see on both sides, I hand brushed that. So I used first a gunmetal on here and then slightly gray. I couldn't replicate the same exact color that I had on the real aircraft, so I kind of did the best that I could, but I think it turned out pretty well. And I weathered the nozzles with a AK Interactive, like a dark wash, after spraying the Pledge Floor Care on there, because the AK Interactive washes are enamel based, and if I had put an enamel clear coat or gloss coat on this, I would have just wiped the paint right off. So I made sure that I didn't do that on there. And moving on, what else? I haven't talked about putting the kit together yet, for all the fit issues that I had with it. It's a decent kit, but I did have a lot of fit issues. Most of the time I spent building it, it was sanding, puttying and just filling gaps and sanding and more puttying and scraping and stuff like that, because I did have to scrape some big chunks of plastic out to get rid of nasty fit issues on here. Okay, number one, for the intakes right here, this is all one piece. That front piece here, this is all one piece that it cuts off right here and then goes all the way back onto there and then connects right in the back here. So I had to get rid of, there was a nasty line that you could tell, like you could tell that was two pieces being molded together or being glued together. So I decided to get rid of that. And same thing on this side. It took me a long time to get rid of that because I had to use like 180 grit on here to just scrape away and make sure I didn't erase any of the detail. And then I put putty on there and then went up on sandpaper with finer and finer and finer until it finally got rid of it. And I did manage to mask inside of the intakes to get that white color in there as well as that gray color in there. So that went pretty well, I'd say. Took me a while to do that, but I tried to figure out a way of doing it, and I did manage doing that. And for that, that went pretty well with it. So I got rid of all the nasty mold lines and all the attachment parts where you actually saw that it was two pieces and not one single piece like on the wings. Let me zoom in on the wings here. I got rid of that nasty line right here that you could definitely see that it was two pieces. I had to sand away without getting rid of this part here. Same thing on that other side. It took me a lot of sanding, and I did have to rescribe lines with a scriber. All the panel lines here to get rid of that. And for the aileron here and the flap, there was a huge... it didn't fit on very well because this here is all one piece, and then the rest of the wing here is another piece. So I did have to sand this down right here to actually get it looking flat and even all across here, because the flap was way lower than the aileron. On this side it was way higher, so I had to sand that down and getting it to look nice. Same thing with the other side. And another huge fit issue, of course, any of you guys that have built this kit know that there's a fit issue with the nose. It's two pieces, so there's the the back body, and then there's the whole nose here that you can see. So it doesn't attach very well at all, so I had to get rid of a line that went right across here somewhere. So I had to do that as well. But with the nose, the canopy right here, this is one piece here, but it does attach farther down than it looks, as some of you know because you've built this kit. I had to actually sand that all down because it wasn't even at all together. Like, the canopy was higher. Its mold was higher than the mold of the nose, the surrounding nose, so I had to sand that down without actually scratching the canopy. I put tape over it, of course, masked it, and then just sanded all that down with pretty light grit on. Then I went higher and higher and higher as it got smoother. But of course I did erase the panel lines all along here, so I had to rescribe everything on there and even do the rivet detailing by hand. I don't have a tool, but I would love one, so I'm actually thinking about getting that, but I had to use a dentist's tool. This thing, as you can see, that's what I do my rivet detailing with. I don't stab them, I just lightly kind of dab it in there so it makes tiny rivet details and not huge. But those were the major fit issues with this thing. Of course, the whole lower body. Let me get a thing of paint out so I could put it upside down. Of course, the lower body on here, the lower part all along here, there was a seam line that I got rid of. Luckily, also a lot of sanding all throughout here. That was another big fit issue with this thing. I did a lot of sanding and a lot of scraping on this thing, so it was hard to get rid of that. It just took a lot of time and a lot of patience, which I'm glad I put into it, because it really worked out well and it really looks nice now. So I had to do that. What else? I think that's all for the fit issues along here. There's no other major fit issues that I can think of, but other than that, it was pretty well done. It was pretty well built. Everything, I mean, they definitely put a good amount of time into it. It wasn't too bad, although I did notice that the pylon, hold on, let me bring it closer, that the pylon under this fuel tank, it's on the real airplane, it's not just flat all the way through this whole lower body. It's not flat all the way through. It's kind of curved. It goes down farther, like it goes down on the body as it goes farther back. And the pylon in here isn't just straight throughout. It's actually, it has a curve to it. But on the kit, it's all straight, which I don't care. It's not like somebody's going to come up to it and notice that, unless they were actually a pilot, probably, of this exact airplane, or just of the same version of this airplane. But it doesn't bother me. Not a huge issue, like I said. So that's no big problem. What else? Oh, yes, part of the exhausts. I did have a hard time. Hold on. I did have a hard time getting the exhausts on there to actually fit to the, because this is one piece here. One piece, and then it starts from here, and then this is all another piece. It's not together, and there are tiny gap lines through here, in here, but I tried to get it as close as possible by cutting a few pieces, and just super gluing them on. That's what I had to use. Super glue, it dries faster. I know, but I was careful with it. So I did use that on it, and it turned out well. Tiny gap lines, which aren't too noticeable, but I know they're there, so it bothers me sometimes. But those are pretty much all the bads about this thing, and all the goods about it. Again, like the build, I think it was very well shaped, very nice panel lines, and rivet detailing on this whole thing. I would recommend getting this if you don't have it, and putting in a little time and just effort and patience into it, because it is difficult in some of the processes that you do. But again, very, very nice panel lines and rivet detailing around this whole thing, all the way up to the nose and all the way back to the exhausts, as well as the vertical and the horizontal fins on this thing. Very nice panel lines, very nice raised surface details, like where the wings would fold up on here. Let me zoom it in. Where the wings would fold up, like all along here. Very nice raised surface detail here. And all the way to back here, all the way back here, they did a pretty nice job with this whole thing on there. So that's a good, that's a really good part about this airplane, this kit. They did do a very nice job with how accurate the mold is and how accurate and shapes of everything around it are. So I do like that. And the intakes, very accurate, and they are pretty even along the body here. Along both sides, they're even. So that was good. What else do I have to say? Cockpit. Yeah, the cockpit. The windscreen for this, the windscreen, it is hard to tell where it exactly attaches here, but I did have a hard time getting the windscreen on there. I did have to use super glue because if I used anything thinner than that, it was just not going to stay on there because it barely has any surface attachment, just where the two pieces where the windscreen and the actual body here touch. I mean, it's just two little lines right here in here where you actually slide the canopy in there, but they barely touch on there. So I had to use super glue to actually get it to stay, to get the canopy to stay on there well. So that was, I just had to adjust to that. But other than that, it was a really fun build. Everything was, I tried to get everything as accurate as possible. And this issue, it was my fault, not anybody's, not the company that made it or the guy that gave me the decals. But as you notice here, I put that black line, I painted it black. Let me focus it. I painted it black back here just a little too far. As you can see that these red lines do not touch it all the way here. So that was my fault. I wasn't going to fix it or repaint it over here the same color as the fuselage here, so I just decided to leave it. The decals bent to this paint, the way this painted surface area was shaped. They did fit this whole thing along here really nicely. Did take me a while adjusting it all, but it did fit very well, so I was really happy about that. So that was really nice. And for the parts where the pilots step on right here, and on the other side as well, I wish it was just a little lighter, because on the real aircraft they're not like extremely black as they are in this airplane. I wish they were lighter. But other than that, it's cool. Looks pretty well done. You guys told me it looks pretty good, so thanks for that. Because I did put a lot of time and effort and just patience into this whole thing, as you know, as you've seen me build this thing. And landing gear. Now the landing gear. Talk about the nice thing about the landing gear. Really accurate. Although they're not extremely accurate, but they are pretty accurate for the landing gear. They have a lot of detail to them. Hold on, let me get it closer to this. I only have one camera, sorry, I use my iPhone. But anyway, for the landing gear, pretty accurate. They have a lot of detail to them. Although there are really small pieces that you have to put on them, but just if you're patient and just yeah, pretty much patient with it, you can get it done without breaking anything, which is pretty nice. I love the way they look. Like I said before, that one of my really favorite things about this airplane is the landing gear. They're so beefy, they look so cool. The back gear and the nose gear as well, they're just so huge. Looks really awesome, and the way they're shaped, they're not just straight down as in most airplanes, they're at an angle. Looks like they have about 50 degrees, 60 degrees of angle to them. So I really like that. I really like how big they are, and the landing gear wells here, you can see, are really detailed. I did like all the wiring, all the molded wiring and stuff, and the raised detailed surfaces that they actually molded into there. They did a really, really, really nice job with that, as well as the front nose gear. They did really good with that. So I put a lot of time putting in wiring in there, and the little yellow parts that were on the silver wiring, I replicated that as best as I could as well. So that was pretty good. So that's another kit on my shelf, another kit that looks really well done. It took me a while to do, so hopefully it doesn't break, or just, I have had kits that just had pieces knock off of them for somehow, I don't know if I bumped them or anything else like that, but hopefully this one doesn't break in any way. But yeah, really enjoy doing this kit. I would recommend you get it if you don't have it. It is difficult to build in some parts, but if you're patient and you like putting in a lot of time into your kits and just being patient with it, and if you have the right materials to get it to look accurate as possible, and you have the time, I recommend you get it. But if you're not patient with it, if you're not patient with your kits, and you don't like putting in a lot of time into it, I recommend you don't get it, because it really is, it's a game of patience with this thing. So, and a lot of hard work into just a lot of sanding and puttying. And if you like that, that's cool. I don't care. You can just do that if you want. And if you do, it is another great kit on your shelf that you can put on there. I do like the double-seated version, the twin-seater version, way better, because it just has a whole cockpit in there that looks much better than the single-seater version. But overall, it's the same exact airplane. The Super Hornet, I like the Super Hornet way better than the other one, the smaller version that the Blue Angels fly. I don't know which version that one is exactly, but anyway, my next kit I will be doing is the, hold on, I gotta get it, is the Phantom, the F4. I think it's too big. Yeah, it's too big for my camera, sorry guys. But anyway, it's the Phantom, F4 Phantom that I will be doing. The Wild Weasel that I got it's the F4G Phantom Wild Weasel that I got at Hobby Lobby, so I'll be putting that together. It's a 1/32 scale, as this one was 1/48. So it's much, much bigger. It's actually huge. It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be. So it's going to take me a lot of time, a lot of glue, and a lot of paint, definitely, for that. So I'm going to have a really fun time building it. But other than that, yeah, it's really been fun building this whole thing, and I can't wait for my next one. Check out the video if you want. I have it on my YouTube page, and I will be posting this on Facebook for you guys to watch it if you'd like. Alright, thanks for watching, guys, and have a nice day.